Commander, you are a Shadow Priest, a master of dark magic. Today, I'm going to show you how to play a Shadow Priest the easy way, but before I do, let's take a look at how they work. There are a number of different ways to play a Shadow Priest depending on what talents you choose. For this guide, we're going to focus on the Clarity of Power rotation. Traditionally, Shadow Priests are known for their damage over time or channeling spells, but with the level 100 talent Clarity of Power, the rotation is simplified, focusing more on instant cast or short cast spells. Your number one priority will be to use Devouring Plague whenever you have 3 or more Shadow Orbs. Next, you'll want to use Mind Blast off cooldown whenever you have fewer than 5 Shadow Orbs. Your third priority will be to use Shadow Word Death when you have fewer than 5 Shadow Orbs, but note, you can only use Shadow Word Death when your target is at or below 20% health. Also, the cooldown of Shadow Word Death resets if you don't kill the target, so if you still have fewer than 5 Shadow Orbs, be sure to use Shadow Word Death a second time. And lastly, you will use Mind Spike as filler. If you're fighting multiple enemies, keep up this rotation on your main target, but throw in Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch on all the other targets. If you're fighting 5 or more enemies, use Mind Seer instead of Mind Spike, and don't worry about putting up the dots anymore. And that's a very basic rundown on how to play a Shadow Priest with Clarity of Power. But we can simplify it even further with macros. Just know, these macros are not for hardcore raiders or for min-maxing. This is for casual players, or people with disabilities like myself. You will need a mod called Gnome Sequencer, which can be found on WoW Interface. There will be a link in the description below, so download it, unzip it, and place it in your add-ons folder. Now to make things easier, I have provided a file containing all of my macros designed for Gnome Sequencer. You can find a link to it in the description below. The file is called sequences.lua, so download it and place it in the Gnome Sequencer folder that you just put in your add-ons folder. If you followed all these steps correctly, you're ready to log into the game and create the macros. Now that you have Gnome Sequencer set up with my sequences file, you are ready to begin making macros in game. It is important that you give the macros the names that I tell you, and that you do not put any text in the macro field. Just name them and place them on your action bar, and Gnome Sequencer will do the rest. The first macro is called Shadow C, and this is for your single target rotation. This macro prioritizes in order Devouring Plague, Mind Blast, and Shadow Word Death, and then it'll use Mind Spike as filler. It'll also summon your Shadow Fiend whenever it's off cooldown, since you want to use that as much as possible. You're going to need to cast your level 6 talents separately. Since most people like to use Halo, using that ability carelessly is very dangerous, so it's not included in the macro. That goes for Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain as well, since you'll only be using those abilities occasionally and they're not a part of your main rotation. The second macro is Shadow CA, which is your AoE Rotation Macro. This macro does the exact same thing as the single target one, except it replaces Mind Spike with Mind Seer. Use this macro whenever you're fighting a large number of enemies, like 5 or more. Keep in mind that this is a very basic rotation, and as always, there is a lot more to be gained out of your class if you play it the normal way. These macros are not going to get you high numbers on the DPS meters. And don't forget, if you haven't chosen the level 100 talent Clarity of Power, these macros will not work. So you must be level 100 with Clarity of Power to use these macros. You should also know that there is a much more advanced technique used with Clarity of Power called dot weaving, which adds a substantial increase to your DPS when executed correctly. But it's far too advanced and complex for my feeble mind to understand, so I haven't covered it here. But I will provide a link in the description below to Icy Veins, which has the rotation in full detail if you want to check it out. And that's pretty much how I play a Shadow Priest. If you're interested, feel free to give it a try. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that like button, or even the favorite button. And if you found it informative, perhaps you'd like to inform your friends by sharing it with them. And don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see future videos on this channel. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, this is TheKephas, until next time.